Hi. Hello and welcome to this video. This is just everything I read in May. It's pretty simple, straightforward, and I'm filming the intro after the fact because I forgot about it. So to get out of my reading slump, hopefully, I'm thinking I'm going to read The Hollow Places. This is a book my sister lent me. Something that I've already started this month. This is actually a recommendation from one of my friends. It's called Try Softer. That is the loose plan for this video. We're going to just go by how I feel and hopefully have a more productive reading month than I have had the past kind of month and a half now at this point. I will come back with an update when I have one. I should have got my brush, but I didn't. So I'm about halfway through. Ooh, I think I might be even a little over halfway through The Hollow Places, whatever the heck I'm reading. You would think I would know. And it's actually really good. Surprisingly scary. I really didn't know anything about it. I don't even think I read the back because she pitched it to me, right? And she said that she enjoyed it. So she let me borrow it. And basically, it's like just a lot more intense than I thought it was gonna be. So it's this woman who's just gotten a divorce and, you know, she's kind of down on her luck, doesn't really know what to do with her life, wasn't expecting the divorce, sorta, and doesn't know what to do now. And so she goes and stays with her uncle, who owns this not antique shop, like one of those places where they sell weird knickknacks, and he believes in Bigfoot and just like crazy wonders of the world, you know, stuff that like isn't real or myths, and a weird knickknack shop that just has a ton of crap in it you can buy. So she goes to stay with him for a while to sort of figure out her life, and she's working there, and it's attached to this coffee shop where an old friend she knew works there. And one day she's working in the shop, she's cleaning up, and she stumbles upon a hole in the wall. And she's like, ugh, what the heck? She thinks a customer accidentally put a hole in the wall and didn't tell her. And so she gets her friend that works in a coffee shop to come and patch it up. And they realize that there's another room on the other side of this hole in the wall. And they're thinking, that doesn't even make sense. The building doesn't extend that far. There is no room on the other side of this wall. There's no spot for a room. So instead of plastering up, they just break it open and go into it because they're like, this doesn't make any sense. And they go in and there's another room and there's a dead body in it. They're kind of freaking out about the dead body, and then there's a door in this room that leads to another place, and they're super confused because the building doesn't go that far. Like, why is there all this extra room? And they go into the room.
One eternity later.
Okay, I realize I never finished that thought, but they open up the second door and they're outside. But they're not just outside the coffee shop or the shop that she works in. They are in this vast space of a bunch of shallow water and these little teeny islands, mounds of sand that they can walk on. They're obviously really confused. They start wandering around in this realm, in this world. And my first thought is, you are gonna get lost. You're not gonna be able to find your way back to your door, right? Your entrance, how you got in there. And that's exactly what happens. But at this point, I am significantly more than halfway through, and it is a lot more intriguing than I thought it would be. I guess I have low expectations going into books like this. It's been a long time since I read a horror book, I guess, and this is legitimately horror. There's very interesting descriptions of what's going on, and it's very weird, very creepy. There's a couple gory descriptions and scenes so far, and it's just, I wasn't expecting the horror of it. Really interesting imagery to the point where I think it gave me a bad dream last night. The dream was not just like the book, but kind of in a similar vein of a very specific detail in this book that I guess just really bothered me. And it was I literally had like, I don't want to say it was a nightmare. It was more of like a stress dream. But I think it was stemming from a particular detail in this book. And that's never happened, I don't think. Unfortunately for me, today is one of the first days in it feels like forever that I don't have to leave the house, that I don't have anywhere to be, that I don't have an appointment or something that I need to do. And so I'm really looking forward to just reading. I'm definitely planning on finishing this book today. I only have 100 pages left, and I'll definitely let you know how that goes after, because I'm just planning on doing some reading. I'm planning on picking up one of the new books that I bought. So yesterday, while I was out, I decided to treat myself to a little Barnes & Noble excursion. I honestly don't think I've been book shopping for at least 6 months. The last time I bought new books was online, and it was the end of last year, I believe. And now we're almost halfway through this year. So it's actually been a long time since I've bought books myself, but somehow I do keep acquiring them. But I went to Barnes & Noble and I picked up 3 books that I'm probably going to start after I finished the Hollow Places. I don't know why I can't remember the name of this book. So the first book I picked up was We Spread. This book I heard about a while ago, and it's been on my TBR, and I just finally bit the bullet and bought it. Because sometimes I don't buy books right away when I want them. Sometimes I wait to try and get a discount at a secondhand shop, or maybe somebody will just like lend it to me, you know? So I don't buy books right away a lot of the time, unless it's like something that I can't wait for. But I finally bought this book, and this is basically about an old woman. Things start happening and she's confused on if what she thinks is happening is actually happening, or if it's just a symptom of her old age. So yeah, I picked up We Spread. And then this book I've seen last time I was at Barnes & Noble and didn't pick it up, and then I decided that I was just gonna get it because I was book shopping. This is called The Quiet Tenant. I don't know whose perspective it's from yet. It's about a serial murderer who's plotting his next victim, and that's all I really know about this one. And then this book, so many people are talking about this series. I think I'm kind of past the wave. I always love to be fashionably late to a trend. I decided I would pick it up. Listen, a lot of the reason I did this book shopping and got these books was because I had a gift card, so I didn't feel as bad about spending over $20 on one book. I'm a big fan of secondhand shops for book buying because $20+ on one book just is a little painful, but I had a gift card, so I figured I would just go for it. So A Court of Thorns and Roses. This book, if you're in the book community on YouTube or anywhere, people are freaking out about this series and I believe are really enjoying it. I'm sure there are people who are not enjoying it, but 'tis life, you know? So I decided, I read the back. I don't know, I kind of wanted to know what the hype was about. I don't know how many books are in this series. I believe this series is finished. So I figured I'd give the first one a shot. Can't hurt to see what the hype is about, and maybe I'll like it. And I am experimenting more with science fiction and fantasy this year. I'm dipping my toes into sci-fi, so I figured this might be an easy one since everyone is liking it. But yeah, so I'll probably start one of these 3 books after I finish The Hollow Places. I'm looking forward to my day full of reading, and I'll check back in with you when I have something to say. Okay, I finished The Hollow Places, and honestly, I'm pleasantly surprised with how horror it was. It must just have been a while since I've read a horror book. I read a lot of probably more suspense mystery, so this being just genuine horror, it was good. There was a fight scene at the end that I didn't see coming, and strangely enough, there are 2 scenes in this book that I swear are straight out of the SpongeBob movie. And that might be a really specific comparison that you might not understand if you've not seen the SpongeBob movie, the original one. And that kind of made me chuckle. But I think my initial reaction to this book is a 4 stars. It was unsettling and did scare me a little bit. I will say that some points the dialogue felt kind of juvenile, like trying to make jokes that just felt not like they weren't written for me. I don't know who they were written for, but the dialogue being a little juvenile was relatively small part. It wasn't that bad. It was not distracting at all. It was sometimes humorous. And there's actually a lot of references to other things. It references the Bible a lot. It references Narnia a ton. Which Narnia book is it? One of the Narnias is actually literally referenced in here. The book where they can go into different pools. It's like a forest and they can go into different pools into different dimensions. And it's literally that just flipped, where it's a bunch of water and there's a bunch of islands with doors. But it's also, I read the author's note, it's also based off of the setting of The Willows by H.P. Lovecraft. So it's really interesting. It draws from a lot of references that I think a lot of people would get. In a way, it takes me out of the fantasy a little bit, just because when I'm reading a book, I'm like not in this world, right? I'm somewhere else, no matter the genre of the book. And so references to like real things in my life sometimes can take me out of the fantasy a little bit. But in this book, honestly, I felt like it almost helped the story. Comparing it to Narnia kind of helped explain what was going on. So overall, really enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting to. It took me like maybe an hour and a half to finish that book. I definitely want to start something else today. We're going to ride that motivation and jump right into one of my new purchases because I just bought them. So my motivation for reading them is potentially the highest it'll ever be. So do I want to go fantasy or psychological thriller? I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. Okay, bye. So I chose We Spread, and I'm actually 100 pages in. The text is very spaced out in this book, making it easy to read quickly. Anytime there's dialogue, it's really spaced out. So there's not a lot of text on each page. Also, the chapters are incredibly short. I think for some reason it tricks my brain into reading more, because if the chapter is super short and I look and see the next chapter is super short, I'm like, oh, just one more chapter. I'll take a break after this chapter and then I just end up reading more. So I'm really not expecting this to take me too long. Basically, this is about a much older woman who has been living on her own for a while and her memory is failing her. Her partner died several years ago. She's been on her own for a while now and she's forgetting things. She's writing a bunch of notes down everywhere. Food's getting left out. She's struggling to function independently. and she has this fall and she hits her head, and she doesn't know how long she laid there, but fortunately her landlord came and found her and decided, okay, it's time that you go to this basically assisted living facility that she had picked out years ago. But because of her memory failing her, she doesn't remember that she picked it out. So it's really sad. Her landlord, Mark, took her to the place that she'd already put a deposit down for, already planned on attending when it became necessary, but she doesn't remember that she did that. So she's really upset. She's like, I don't want to be here. I want to go back to my apartment. I don't need to live here. I can live on my own. But she quickly gets acclimated to the assisted living facility. It's really nice. There's 3 other residents there. So including her, there's only 4 people that are staying in this living facility with the woman, Shelly, who's running it, and then Jack, who's the helper. He helps get them to their rooms and down and everything. And it seems like a really nice facility. You know, the food's good, her room's really good, and everyone seems really nice, and she's feeling really happy because she's realizing she hasn't had this connection with anybody in a long time, and she's only been there for, like, I think this is the 2nd day she's there. So it's really sad. Getting old and losing maybe your mobility, maybe your independence is already scary, but then on top of that, losing your memory too, losing your life in a way because you can't remember it. It's also a different kind of scary. I know this is a psychological thriller, so I'm in suspense of what's gonna happen because obviously I'm kind of assuming that there's something up with the living facility that she's staying in, that it's not all as it seems, not all rainbow and sunshines. But this book really isn't that long, and I'm already 100 pages into it. So I imagine things are gonna go downhill in some capacity relatively quickly. So that is where I am, and I'm having a good time. All right, same spot, different day, and I am going to read more today. I am really far. I have less than 100 pages left of We Spread. After I shut the camera off yesterday and read one more page, it was amped up a little bit. It's been kind of weird the whole time, but that's probably partially just because I know it's a psychological thriller and they're in an old folks home and, you know, things are weird, but then it just got amped up a little bit. The woman who runs this place, her name is Shelly. She is obsessed with being one, all connected, like losing your sense of self, losing individuality. And so our main character, Penny, she's starting to realize something is absolutely wrong here. She's losing track of time, like her nails are growing. From our perspective, and what Penny believes, it's only been a couple of days. It's only been like 2-3 days that she's been in this assisted living facility, but her nails keep needing to be cut. She's struggling a lot with her memory. But I mean, from what we're reading, from Penny's perspective, real shady business is going on in this assisted living facility. So I'm curious as to see if it isn't all in her head and something weird is going on, then how far it's gonna go in terms of weird, or if it's just all in her head and she's just losing her mind.
One hour later.
I finished it. I loved it. I thought it was really good. The ending was super abrupt and kind of like, crap, are you kidding me? That's it? This is how this ends? Obviously very intentional, obviously very impactful, and just really sad. So I don't think it's a spoiler to say you never really find out if it was all in her head or if something more serious was going on. I think it's not supposed to be answered, and being old is something that scares me for sure, as I imagine it scares a lot of people. Like, it's scary, but it's scary in a different way. Like, The Hollow Places was scary because it was a horror book dealing with multiple dimensions and supernatural things. This is scary because it's dealing with aging, which we all will face. We all are currently facing. It's a psychological thriller for sure, so it is successful in being unnerving and thought-provoking. So Shelly, the woman who was running the facility, is clearly afraid of death. She's afraid of getting old. She just wants to keep living and keep creating and keep going because death is the scary part. But then there's this moment where it's almost a realization, not for Shelley, but for probably Penny and the reader, of actually maybe infinity is scary. Sometimes it's hard to find meaning in your life, but that isn't resolved with more time. You don't need to live forever to find meaning, I think is what I'm trying to say. These people are living in this old folks' home and every day is the same thing. Penny hits a point where she's like, no, I'm not supposed to be living like this forever or living forever, period. Like everything is supposed to have a lifespan and die. So there's a lot going on in this book. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was written really well, from how the text is broken up in the really short chapters and how we know just as much as Penny. You don't get this omnipresence over the book. You know just as much as Penny. You're just as confused as she is. By the end of the book, Shelley's telling her she's been there for 3 years, but to her it's only been 4 days, and starts to believe that Shelley is doing something to her and the other residents there. This is an example of a book that is left really open-ended, but I think does it really successfully. Whereas in my last reading vlog, I talked about Unbury Carol, and that book was also left kind of open-ended and kind of really abruptly. It just didn't work as well. Whereas this, the vagueness of the ending is intentional, partly because the author doesn't have an answer. There are certain things in life where there is no cut and dry yes or no answer. Something like the meaning of life and why our time on earth is the amount of time that it is, that's a question that is really almost unanswerable. So I think leaving it really ambiguous really worked in this book. 4.5, I really enjoyed it. I'm really glad I finally bought it. This has been on my digital TBR for years now. I think we're gonna try and read one more book in this vlog. I will come back to you when I'm reading something else. It's been several days since I've filmed anything, since I finished We Spread, but I did start another book and I'm about halfway through it actually. I've started Captain Blood. So this book is about a man who is a doctor and he is living his life being a doctor, and somebody is like, come quick, this guy needs help, he needs a doctor. So he goes and he starts to try and heal and attend to a dying man, and because he does that, he gets arrested because of who the guy was. He gets arrested for treason and he gets put on trial, he gets convicted, and he gets sold into slavery. So this man buys him and he's now working on this property as a slave. So where I am right now is that he just escaped from being a slave. He is now taken over a pirate ship and is the captain of this pirate ship. Oh, also, give me 1 second. I also just this morning finished Try Softer. So I mentioned that I was reading this at some point in this vlog and I really, really enjoyed it. It's crazy how close to home a lot of the stuff in this book was. Without getting into it too much, it is about recognizing trauma in your life, whether it be big T trauma or little t trauma, and it's about learning how to deal with emotions that you might never have dealt with before. Not that you didn't have the emotions, but that you were just not dealing with them at all or just not appropriately. And I think it's really practical and really important. For me personally, it's like, didn't really realize I needed somebody to say these things to me. But yeah, it's also just beautiful. But yes, going to be reading Captain Blood today. So it's actually the last day of May, and I actually read a lot more than I thought I was going to yesterday. So finishing this book today, before June, actually seems really doable. I am really liking this so far. It's giving a little Count of Monte Cristo vibes. Like I said, he's a respected doctor, a gentleman, if you will, but now he's captain of a pirate ship, so he's balancing being a pirate with being the true gentleman that he is. is, because he's been dealt a rough hand, right? Yeah, we're almost done with this book and with this month and with this vlog. Yes. So when Captain Blood was a slave, he started to fall in love with his master's niece, whose name is Arabella. And it's been a period of time since he's seen her, and he's now been kind of reunited with her. They never were in a relationship. They never told each other that they liked each other, because they always kind of had a snarky, interesting relationship with each other and kept having misunderstandings. And now that they've met up again, she's all angry because he's a pirate. He's a thief. You know, he's not a good guy. And so she's basically heartbroken about it. But they meet, you know, out at sea, because she's traveling with this other dude for some reason. She's probably going to end up marrying this dude. And all of the conflict that's going on, Captain Blood, he's not a true pirate. He's not really a lying, thieving pirate. So his main goal is to just keep Arabella alive and do whatever it takes for her to be happy. And they keep having these misunderstandings, and he doesn't think that she loves him. So he tells the dude she's with, look, I just don't want her to think I'm a pirate. I don't want her to think the worst of me. She clearly wants to be with you. That's fine. I just want her to be alive and be happy. And her father, no, not her father, her uncle is trying to kill him, coming after him, right? And Captain Blood won't kill the uncle because it's her uncle, and he doesn't want to do anything that would affect her life negatively. Captain Blood is a really interesting, cool character, and he named his ship after her. Get you a man that'll name his ship after you. Just whacked my... Okay, so it is... May is over. It is now June. I finished Captain Blood. I am teetering on a 4.5, 5 star for Captain Blood. I really enjoyed it. It's a short book overall, so it does not get dragged out too much. And overall, the plot and how it ends is good, and I really enjoyed it. And it's definitely on my list of books that I want to reread and could potentially make its way up to an all-time favorite. I don't think you have to read a book multiple times for it to be a favorite, but I think the more you read a book, the more you appreciate it. Whatever. Anyway, that's going to do it for this vlog. I had a pretty successful time reading this May. I read 4 books. I enjoyed all of them, which is pretty good because I've been in a bit of a reading slump. So that's really good. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed watching. Let me know what you thought about any of the books I read. If you have any suggestions for reading, I am constantly collecting suggestions and things to read, and I'm pretty open to read a wide variety of things. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. I really hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!